I didn't, so, but the concern is that it not end up being high-end retail that becomes a place where, you know, people from outside pour in and stores become something that the neighborhood doesn't find useful or affordable, basically. And currently, 6% being retail and office, to me, when I first heard it, seemed low. And I asked the question about whether or not that was something, whether that percentage made sense when they were envisioning it, coming at it, not looking from the zoning, but instead sort of looking bird's eye down at it, whether that percentage made sense. And no one would give me a number, but I got the sense that it seemed a little low to them too. One comment that I thought was very interesting was that there's a potential for phasability here, that maybe this doesn't all need to be done at once, so that it could be a partial intervention and then we can kind of learn from what happens, you know, see what stores move in, how much the neighbors use them. And I thought that was an interesting concept. It's big enough to maybe afford that happening, though from a developer's perspective that might not make any sense at all. Another concern, well, let's see, some interesting comments from the students were that it's a node between two neighborhoods. There's the Jackson-Witherspoon neighborhood and the Jefferson Road area neighborhood, which have two different characters, densities, and that this would be wanting to be a connector somehow between them, be accessible to both of them and be used by both of them. And then also it's an interesting spot between town and sort of country in terms of park and school, which is at the other end of Witherspoon. It seems like it would be a great place for a transit stop. There was concern expressed by some members of the community that doing this commercial mixed-use development here would be kind of a precursor to making all of Witherspoon Street commercial between here and the upper portion of Witherspoon. And there's a strong feeling that the scale and the mix of residential and business be maintained on Witherspoon between these two spots. I think that maybe, yeah. Do you guys have anything on that?
The news bulletin that came out last night is that the developer that had signed an agreement with the community to develop the hospital site has backed off that agreement and is not going to proceed. So the hospital site is now sort of open for, you know, people to come and develop it. The zoning is set and with a great deal of community input, and we look forward to continuing that conversation. What I'd like to do now, if we could, is to open the floor to conversation. I think maybe I could just ask for a show of hands how many people want to say something, because there's only one mic. And if you wanted to come up and, you know, speak for a minute or two, I know there's some here that always have something to say. What is nice is if we can give those that don't usually have a chance to be heard or to speak to also say something. So I welcome anybody who wishes to come and open the floor to conversation. Thank you for coming. Anne, why don't you come if you wish? No?
I think I can speak loudly enough to be heard by everybody here. I wonder whether any of the Princetonians in the room have any idea why we're not like Ann Arbor, Michigan, or Madison, Wisconsin, or Austin, Texas. Why aren't we moving? Why haven't we been moving ahead with these ideas for a decade? Do any Princetonians have any thoughts about that? Dead silence.
Reaching for the sky.
Yes, sir.
I think one of the reasons is because we have a lot of senior citizens here.
And senior citizens means?
Conservative approach to growth. They want to keep things as they are. They want the village concept. They like the ability to be able to walk into town. I'm talking about the borough. The township is a little different. They can drive into town.
Yes, in that, yes.
Those three towns, the obvious answer is our educational institution is about 1/10 the size of the University of Michigan, the University of Texas, the University of North Carolina, and Chapel Hill. There are 35,000 students in Chapel Hill. We have roughly 5 in our entire university.
Undergraduates.
Well, our graduate school is minute. I mean, it's just the scale of those communities is much, much larger than Princeton. Their captive pedestrian student populations, their density that they have, the economic size of their anchor institution is massively larger than ours, and that's the answer. There's your answer. Why don't we have buses running hither and yon? We have a community of, what do we have, 30,000 people spread over how many square miles of the entire township and borough? We're way smaller, we're way less dense. And it's just a simple factual answer. That's the reason.
Bill?
Excuse me, my voice isn't as strong as Ann's. In my experience, there's something somewhat unique about Princeton, and it does involve that it's a small community. And that is that there's an incredible concentration of very intelligent and thoughtful people in the community, and they care. And the downside to that is it's very, very difficult to get consensus in the town because there are so many divergent good ideas that we have a hard time agreeing on things. And I think a partial at least, but a very strong answer to that side is right in front of our noses, and that's Princeton Future, because Princeton Future becomes a vessel for those people who care and have good ideas to come together, and in a way that can't happen in the smaller settings. Like, for example, I don't think it was said earlier that 2 of the other architects in this room, Josh and Kirsten, also serve on the Site Plan Review Board. And I see Ron Berlin in the room, who is a past chairman of the Site Plan Review Board. That is an organ where planning professionals and architects can participate in the public discussion, but it's a very restricted one, and Princeton Future provides a wide open forum so that anybody, anytime, can bring an idea, and I'm optimistic that that will make a difference in exactly this issue.
Thank you. Yeah, Chip?